by Ben Force, and well, I got aware of Ben via Twitter, so where I recognized that he's writing like a little book about AWS CDK, and then we started to talk a bit, and it was pretty interesting that he brought up that he's like doing lots of things with AWS CDK at his company, and that he's also quite a bit of experience with Alexa skill development. And then we thought, well, let's just do like a little session about building an Alexa skill with the AWS CDK and see what kind of challenges there are involved. So Ben, over to you. Like a quick intro of yourself.
Okay, yeah, thank you, Sebastian. Yeah, like you said, I've been working on a book about the CDK. I kind of convinced my current workplace to CDK for cloud development, and part of that process, I was like giving introductory courses to a bunch of experienced developers that had never worked with something like the CDK before. So I saw a lot of value in that and thought I'd share it in a book so that other people can benefit from that.
Right.
Yeah, and yeah, like Sebastian said, I do Alexa skill development as a hobby. It's actually what got me into cloud development in the first place. And actually, pro tip, if you host an Alexa skill on AWS, they will give you AWS credits every month if you incur any charges. So that's a pretty
Oh,
cool
right.
thing.
Okay. So for just for fun means, so you own like a bunch of Alexa devices, and like you try to automate pretty much everything around your home, or how does
Uh,
it work?
yeah, so I haven't really gotten into the automation aspect. I I started out like every month, Amazon would have like a hackathon where if you publish a skill, you get a free Echo device. So I just started putting out more and more stuff like that. And eventually I created this skill called Movie Quiz, which if you search for it in the store, there's, about 50 of them called Movie Quiz. So, um, but yeah, I've just pretty much working on that in my free time. It's getting a fair amount of traction. I get like a little over 1,000 users a month, so it's kind of
Okay.
fun. Just getting to play around with that, trying to improve it, making the experience more enjoyable.
Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. So, and what kind of general challenges are there in like Alexa skill development, or like like on a broad level, like even outside of AWS CDK itself? Like I can imagine
Yeah,
it's like a bit difficult to, I don't know, to test run this, to test drive this, like similar
yeah.
to iOS or like Android development. It's like you have to have the real thing somehow, or like a simulator or something like this.
Yeah, so you can actually enable your skill on your actual device during development. So it'll hit your development endpoint and you can test it directly through an Echo device that way. But um, kind of a challenge that's unique for voice interaction is you're trying to leave it open for the user to say pretty much anything they want to say in response. And you kind of have to respond to what they actually meant. So the biggest
Right.
challenge is probably figuring out, you have to provide sample phrases that the user might say, and then after you go live, you might figure out, hey, Alexa's confusing what this phrase is supposed to be with this other phrase, or abbreviations are tricky, and there's just
Right.
most of the challenges are around trying to predict what your users will say, and also what Alexa will interpret what they're saying as.
Yeah, right. Um, That makes sense, yeah. And like circling back to the book you're about to write, or you're writing, so that's like that's in progress, right? So it's like an early draft.
Yeah, I'm about a third of the way through the first draft. So yeah, I put together the outline and just been working through it in my free time, trying to get it out there. I hope to have the first draft finished, by the end of this month or middle of next month, time permitting. And then I'll be looking for beta readers. So if you want to take an early look at it and provide me feedback with, this doesn't make sense, or, just general feedback like that, you can DM me on Twitter and let me know that you're interested in that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But you can essentially buy it already, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing is stopping you from just buying it at the moment.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can pre-order it and you should have access to what the current first draft looks like. And yeah, if you catch something there, feel free to DM me and let me know what's messed up or what doesn't make sense.
So CDK an hour, like what's the audience there? Like is it like people who have essentially never seen AWS CDK and
Yeah.
want to dive into this, or?
Yeah, so the idea is that you're already an experienced developer. You're probably, working full time as a developer. You have a grasp of Node and TypeScript. So I'm not going to teach you like, how TypeScript types work or anything like that. It's going to be very focused on, here's starting from like installing the CDK CLI through deploying some fairly complex multi-stack applications.
Right. Okay, cool. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, I don't know. How about we look at some code?
Yeah, you want to get started?
Yeah. Why not?
Okay. So I have this set up. We're actually going to be creating the Alexa skill part in the Alexa console, just because it's not deployed through AWS. There are ways to do that with custom resources, but they're a little bit finicky. So the general setup for our stack is really all we need for this simple skill is we're deploying a single Node.js Lambda. And we'll have to add some more stuff here to give the Alexa service permission to call into this handler, but that's just what we're starting out with for now. And I have some boilerplate code. I pretty much, if you create a new Alexa project, it'll have this as the Lambda handler. So this is all just boilerplate of different stuff you have to handle by default.
So the various events which might be triggered by Alexa itself, and then you can just write your custom logic in one of these handlers.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, here's.
And I can just generate this like via some command, or it's like copy and paste from one of the examples.
Right. So let's see. So there is a ASK. It stands for Alexa Skill Kit.
Right. Okay.
And then you can just do new, and it'll step you through the process of creating this boilerplate code. The problem is
similar to CDK new or the CDK init or what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The reason I'm not showing this is because it overwrites everything in the current directory, so you lose all the CDK stuff. But yeah, if you just step through this, if you just step through this, it'll spit out, a basic Lambda handler. And if you want to use their default, if you want to use their ASK CLI, it has options for deploying the Lambda, but I don't usually use that personally.
Okay, yeah. Okay, cool. Okay, so that's generated then, and then you essentially build a Lambda wrapper around it.
Yeah, exactly.
In AWS CDK. And there's a stack with one Lambda function. Okay, cool.
And the Alexa skill kit, it has this helper. You're telling it you want to build a custom skill. So they have a couple different types of skill. One is like a home automation skill, and there's a few other. But if you're building a generic skill, custom is pretty much what you're going to be using. That's all I've ever made, really, is a custom skill.
Okay.
And then you give it a list of handlers that it'll search through every time it gets a request. So it'll go see if any of these match, and then just run the code in whichever one matches. And it has this error handler in case we mess something up.
Okay. I'm sure we won't.
Yeah. Yeah, so each of these handlers has this can handle check. Like this one is a special handler whenever you open up the skill and you don't ask it a question. So our skill, I'm thinking we'll just call like awesome cloud facts, just because it sounds cool. And if you say like Alexa, open awesome cloud facts, and you don't have anything after that, it'll just dump it into this launch request handler, since you aren't specifying anything special that you want to do.
Right, okay.
And so this is just checking.
And hey, then you could what? You could reply with like a bunch of options, or will Alexa do this by itself without us doing anything, or?
No, she won't do anything except say there was a problem with the requested skills response. And if you've developed an Alexa skill, you've heard that like 50,000 times. But yeah, so this is just checking to make sure that it's a launch request. If it is, it'll use this handler method, which just says welcome. And you can see here, like you were saying, you can say these phrases and which would you like to try. And so there are a little more background on the responses. There are two types of responses. You can say something, you can have her say something, or you can have her ask something. So if she says
like a follow-up question.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so if she says something, the skill just ends and it's all over. So you could just say, here's your fact, and that's just you're saying it and you're not asking for follow-up. This one here adds this reprompt, and that tells Alexa that, hey, this is actually a question, so I need to open my microphone and wait for the user to say something, and then I'll continue the skill like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, so I think we have kind of a basic understanding of how these handlers work. You want to go ahead and start building the actual skill in the console?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's get that window open. Okay, I started working on this one.
So that's the Alexa console, developer console. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
And there you have to register something.
Yeah.
So that's not AWS credentials. That's like a separate account.
You'll log in with your Amazon account, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just developer.amazon. amazon.com. That should take you to a console sign-in where it has a few different services outside of AWS, like login with Amazon, and then the Alexa skill kit. You'll want to look for that. But yeah, once you're all signed up, they'll go ahead and create skill. We're making awesome cloud facts. This is something new that they've added. Well, pretty new. So usually you have to just define like English US, English Canada, English UK. But if you click sync locales, then you can define those English speaking locales once, and it'll copy them across all of them when you're creating it.
So, but is it limited to these locales, or like, you know,
Yeah.
like if you like, so I'm based in Germany, so like if I want to have like a German version, then it's like a different skill, or it's like is it like a multi-language skill?
Yeah, you just have to add like German to it.
Right. Okay. So like multiple languages, and whatever you choose will be handled by Alexa then.
Right. So this is just if you're defining English or you're defining like Spanish, there's two locales for Spanish. It'll kind of copy them back and forth, so you only have to define one language once.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Cool.
And that also, whether the user can user skill depends on what their device's locale is set to. So if you uncheck this and someone is like has their locale set to English UK and you're defining it as like English Australia, they won't be able to use it. So yeah, pro tip: sync locales saves a lot of time. I have an older skill which I made it before that was an option, so I have to like duplicate the locale file and write it across. It's kind of a pain. So, and here's the different types of skills. Like there's a flash briefing, so if you want to add something to your morning routine, you can do that. Smart home is controlling smart devices. But kind of like I was saying, this custom is pretty much.
And like with the custom version, you could build any of the other types as well, or is this like you have to select it now and then you can't change it?
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Like there are ways that you can add some of this functionality in.
Okay, but like by default, you are just going for the like the custom version, since you want to add some code, like some
right, yeah. Like the flash briefing, I think you like define an RSS feed, and there's a few different quirks about each one, but custom gives you the most power to create an actual skill. And then you can have the Alexa console will set up like a little IDE for you if you don't want to worry about provisioning your own AWS resources. That's what these Alexa hosted Node and Python are. They use like the AWS free tier behind the scenes. They'll set up like an account for you and stuff. But it's you might as well just provision your own, especially if you're going to take advantage of those free AWS credits for hosting it.
Yeah.
And so we got all that in, and we'll create the skill.
But that's always something you have to do, right? So it's hard to automate this. You have to go to the console and then you have to click it, and it's not like you couldn't drive it via the CLI or something.
Yeah, there are ways you can drive it from the CLI, but it's a bit finicky. Like if you're just getting started, I find this going through the console here is the easiest way to kind of see everything that's going on. If you're doing it through a CLI, you end up like editing JSON files for all the different interactions that you're creating, and there's a lot of quirks to how they have to be formatted. So, like just starting out, the console gives you some great tools to work with.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, makes
That,
sense.
yeah, again, that's as a starting point. I definitely have like pulled updates off of the console and put it into a pipeline, but like the process of doing that is I don't think we have time to go through in this stream. So
Yeah. But like for like if you think about like an integration test, like that's what you mean by like pipelines, or like like spinning everything up, running some tests against
yeah,
it, and then tearing it down again.
yeah. So for that movie quiz skill that I have a whole GitLab pipeline that it I have like a second copy of the skill. It'll deploy to that second copy, do all the model updates, and then run integration tests against it to validate everything.
Okay.
Um, and then
Yeah.
after that's validated, it'll go into like the development version of the actual skill as part of the release process.
Okay.
Um, yeah, this is a bit newer. You can I'm not sure how this works with a self-hosted skill, but we'll just go ahead and say we're starting from scratch.
Yeah. That's what we want.
Yeah.
So and then I assume we get some config that you have to copy, or
Uh, yeah, so the start from scratch, it should already have. It's not like 100% from scratch. It's their Hello World template, which actually is what was created with the CLI new command. So, yeah, there are a couple concepts we have to walk through here. So every skill has something called an invocation name, and that's like when you tell Alexa, "Hey Alexa, talk to, let's say, movie quiz." So open movie quiz or ask movie quiz what my high score is. That movie quiz part is what's going to go into this invocation name. So we'll use Awesome Cloud Facts. And just a warning, once you actually publish your skill and make it live, you won't be able to change this ever.
okay. Yeah.
So, yeah, you'll want to make sure this is something that Alexa can pick up, like understand from multiple people, like different accents, different
Yeah.
speaking cadences, and stuff like that. So, it's very important. Otherwise, no one will be able to open your skill.
So and then that would be like, hey Alexa, give me some random no awesome cloud facts. That would be
Uh,
invoking it then, or
Yeah, there is few connecting words you have to use between Alexa and the invocation name. It's like open or ask or
all right.
tell.
Okay.
So like up here it's like Alexa ask daily horoscopes if your
Like
invocation.
I think I mentioned it before, like it's like we do have like one Alexa device in our kitchen, and like the timer is pretty much the only feature we use, besides from, well, it's like a display version, and so yeah,
Yeah.
so the time and temperature. Um, but yeah, I feel like it could be doing so much more, but I don't know. So far we haven't really
Yeah.
figured it out.
Well, that's actually yeah, being able to find these skills for most users is a big issue actually. And like seems like every year or two there's like different features you can add to your skill to make it more discoverable, but
Yeah.
it's definitely something Amazon is working on. Yeah, so we have the invocation name. That's how um, Alexa knows you're talking to our skill awesome cloud facts. So if you add something after that invocation name, it's going to go towards an intent, which an intent you can kind of think of as like a function in regular programming. It's something, it's got this label, and it's what Alexa's going to tell you, we have to talk to this. And part of that is you're going to provide a bunch of example phrases of what people can say to trigger this one intent. So we'll change this to cloud fact intent. And we don't need all these existing examples.
So these are the variations of this, or what?
Yeah, so this cloud fact intent is the value you're going to get on the back end to understand that the user wants to invoke this. And then, yeah, we're going to have to put in multiple different ways that the user, different phrases the user can say to actually trigger this. So, so let's think like, Alexa, ask awesome cloud facts to give me a random fact, or tell me something cool. Any other like example, like if you were going to ask our skill how to give you a fact, like what's the most natural way for you to ask?
So what's the phrase? Alexa, give me some. No.
Well,
Alexa,
yeah, it would be.
Give me some cloud facts. Alexa.
Yeah, we have to have the invocation name before this intent. It would be Alexa, ask awesome cloud facts, and then whatever the sample phrase is.
Alexa, ask awesome cloud facts to tell me something new.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, and now we can save this model and build it. Yeah, every time you make a change, you have to build it. And
right. Okay. Yeah.
So that's where it has some sort of AI model in the background that it builds based off of this.
So it builds specifically for this intent.
Well, this build includes our invocation
skill
name changes also. Yeah, for this skill.
Okay.
So now we can go ahead and let's look at how we can handle this in the back end. So we're back at our list of handlers. We'll just add a new one.
So that's the Lambda function, or like the file which we will use in the Lambda function, correct?
Yeah, this is the file for our Lambda function handler.
Which we saw before, like the generated one.
Yeah, we're just modifying that auto-generated template. And we'll want to handle it if we can pretty much copy this. So it's checking to see if it's an intent request, which it is a request from the intent we made. And then we'll change what the intent name is here. Which is just cloud fact intent.
Okay, yeah.
And then, so that'll tell the Alexa skill kit that handler can handle this request now we have to tell it what to do when the request comes in. We'll just fill in like a temporary value for right now.
Yeah. So is there like a way to see the structure of the input? Like what the default structure is?
Yeah. It should be. Yeah, so this is modifying it a little bit. But I'll show you when we're looking at it in the console, it shows the JSON input and output.
Yeah.
We'll use this response builder. We'll just say something and the skill will end. And now we'll have to go down here and add it to our list of handlers. Okay. And that should get it to work.
That should already do it.
Yeah.
But how do you wire this up? Like, you know, like how do you know, like how does Alexa know which Lambda function to call?
Very good question. So I'm actually going to add the skill ID for that skill that we created right in here.
Okay.
Which you can get that if you go back out to the list of skills. There's a copy skill ID button. And you can paste it in there. And now we have, before we wire the Alexa console into this Lambda, we have to give permissions to the Alexa console to actually trigger this Lambda, because it'll check when you're when you provide the Lambda ARN, the console will check, hey, do I have permissions to trigger this? And if it doesn't, it'll just fail and won't save the value.
Okay.
So for that, we have to create a CloudFormation permission.
Right, so there's no abstraction for this
in
the AWS CDK?
No.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. There's abstraction for a lot of permissions to call, but not, I don't think it's that requested of a feature. So here's the secret value that took me quite a long time to figure out.
Yeah, like who's the caller?
Right. The
like the calling identity
is actually, Alexa-AppKit, which I have no idea why it's appkit.amazon.com.
Okay.
And then
scope it down to the skill.
Yeah, the event source token is actually the skill ID.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah.
And then we can help ourselves out and create a new output.
Right, so we need the Lambda ARN to reference it in the Alexa dashboard, I assume.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have to copy this output after we deploy it and put it in the dashboard.
Yeah.
Which
Do you know, like, if this works across all regions? Like, does it
no, it
matter at
doesn't.
all?
That's
Okay, done.
yeah, good
Okay.
point. Yes, it's very locked down. So in the US, it's US East 1. Um,
Oh, like a duplicate ID somewhere.
yep.
Yeah, skill handler and skill
Oh,
handler.
yeah. Nothing like live coding, huh?
Well, that was an easy fix.
Yeah. Yeah, so in the US East 1, I think is the only, there might be one in California, and then the Ireland region, which is EU something, EU West 1 maybe.
Yeah, possible. Not really sure.
And the Ireland region is for Europe and India.
Okay.
And there's one other one, a Pacific something. But yeah, there's only a very few number of regions that you can actually deploy a skill to if you're using Lambda. Now you can just have an SSH or not SSH, HTTPS endpoint if you're using like EC2 or something to host, and you can have that in any region you want.
All right. Yeah, on API gateway.
Yeah.
And then just put it in front of the Lambda. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And we can actually, after we deploy here using this, I was going to show how you can actually debug the skill using an
Yeah.
HTTPS endpoint from local. So we'll get to see how that works here in a bit.
Yeah, I think that's really the interesting part in the end, right? So like, what's like, how does it? Since it's all like a managed service in the end, like, and how do you get an idea what's actually going on inside, like if something goes wrong. So
yeah.
I can imagine it's like not really easy.
Yeah, besides adding console.info every 10 lines. Okay, here we go. So here is our Lambda ARN. And let's see if this is going to work right. So yeah, here in our awesome cloud facts, there's a section called endpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And
there we see the regions. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it might say, okay, yeah, we recommend US East, EU Ireland, and then Asia Pacific Tokyo for Far East.
Yeah, interesting that they say we recommend. So this sort of suggests that it might be possible to do it somewhere else, but I don't know, latency or whatever it is might be an issue.
It's actually not supported in certain regions. Like you cannot create that CloudFormation permission that I just showed. It just won't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, a bit funny wording then.
So there we go. You'll see this tells you have to build it for changes to take place. So we're building a model again. And then once this is done, I'll show you the test interface in the console and we can try it out.
Mm-hmm.
think it might be ready. There's different build phases. So here's where if you have an Alexa device, you turn that on development. If the device is tied to the same Amazon account that you're signed into console with, you can actually invoke it with an actual Echo device. So here goes nothing.
Okay, so that's something I could then actually try and like just sign up for the developer console, install this fact, and then install this skill, and then I could actually use it with my device, which is registered to my Amazon account.
Yeah, you can.
Right.
A lot of people will build their own skills, just turn on development and never bother publishing because it's, something that they just want to use privately.
Yeah.
But if you want to get those AWS credits, you have to publish it to get that. So.
And like the publishing part, is this similar to the iOS publishing process or Android publishing process? So somebody is going to review it, test it, and then it takes like a couple of business days until it gets published. And for each update, it's probably the same.
Yeah, exactly. So it runs some automatic validation, just, here you can see it's failing because we haven't really put much work into it. But you'll have to actually come over here to certification, submit for review, and actual people will go in and review it. And they usually give pretty good feedback. They'll send you an email and say, these are the steps we took, and this is the problem. And a lot of times they'll give you reference to documentation. And if you fail a couple times, you can actually respond to the email and ask for more information, and they're pretty good about following up. So it's actually a pretty good process. I don't have like published apps in iOS, so I don't know how difficult that is, but this is actually...
I don't have first-hand experience in doing this in iOS, but from what I got from other people, it's a nightmare. So it's really, really difficult.
Well, this is not a nightmare, so don't be scared of it if you want to create a skill. But I pulled away from the test tab, but let's go back and see if we can trigger it again. When you're in the test tab and you're actually writing stuff out, you'll just drop off the Alexa part. So there's that temporary response we put in. You can see here is actually what got sent to our Lambda. So there's like the current session and the current user ID, which this is randomly generated when the user like enables your skill. So if they disable it and re-enable it, this will be a completely different user ID. So it's pretty privacy focused on that. And then it'll give you some information in the context about like, they have this screen. So if your skill supports screens, you can send back a display response.
Okay, so I put there what, so I saw earlier that there's like, you can also play videos, probably display images for sure. Probably print some text, I guess.
Yeah, they have this whole, let's see, they have this format called APL, Alexa Presentation Language, which lets you lay out responsive interfaces and stuff. Let's see. Yeah, they have an IDE built into the console here where you can kind of build out your own responses.
All right. Okay.
And so we don't really have enough time to go into this. This is
oh yeah, sure. That's like an
advanced
entire session on its own, I guess.
Oh, yeah, for sure. But yeah, it kind of has some boilerplate responses. but it's just like a JSON format, and you can go in and move the different widgets around to create different interfaces. And then when you basically create a response with this template, and you provide it with the data values that it'll substitute into the template. But we're not doing that.
I mean, right, so we won't do it, but good to know.
Yeah. Yeah, if you really want to like take your skill to the next level, that's a great way to do it. And they have an audio component to that where you can like mix the levels of different sounds, and you can play stuff over top, so you can have like Alexa saying something over top of some background music. It really opens up a lot of cool experiences. But yeah, so cool. we got the test working here, and now I'm going to change the skill. There's another concept that we can introduce called slots, and you can think of those like the intents are like our functions. You can think of slots as like the parameters going into the function.
Right.
So we'll go. Where am I looking? Oh, slot type. So we're going to have a slot that, if the user provides it, will give back like a specific type of fact for a different category. So we'll call it fact categories. Let's see if I can spell. And so right now I have, I just have these two sample facts here, and I added this category property. So we have Lambda and Dynamo. So I'll just add slot values for those. So Lambda, we can pretty much leave that as is, but Dynamo, we're going to want to add some synonyms.
Like DynamoDB or...
Right, exactly, which DB,
you have to write it that way?
You have to write it that way. That's, yeah, a quirk of working with this. Like, Alexa doesn't know that it's supposed to be like this branded name. Maybe for DynamoDB she does, just because she might have a preference for AWS, but but yeah, this DynamoDB is how it should be picked up. We may have to come back and add some different synonyms for that, but basically the user will be able to say Dynamo and we'll get Dynamo, or they can say DynamoDB and we'll still get Dynamo back as a slot value.
So if it would support multiple languages, like would there be like an option to have different, like versions, or just like an alternate version essentially, like regardless of the language, or is it like, is it unbound or is it like bound to a language?
Yeah, this is bound specifically to English. So if we wanted to say add German, now when we go back into the console, it'll have German in this drop-down list. And we'll pretty much, so everything that we created in English is gone. We'll have to make the same thing over again, just with German phrases.
Which makes sense to, it makes sense since it might have totally different meanings, and makes sense.
Yeah, it would be nice if like the intents copied over and you just had to fill in the values, but yeah. So we created our slot type fact categories. So now we have to go and add a slot into our cloud fact intent. So we can add, tell me something about, and then when you're defining an utterance with a slot in it, you use the open curly braces, and we'll create a new slot called category, if I spell it right. And once we add that in, we'll have these category intent slot added down here to this list. And we'll have to tell it what type to expect. And we want fact categories. So now we should be able to save and build. And so, yeah, I was going to show you how to actually debug this locally so you can kind of speed up your development cycle.
And so you don't have to use the Dynamo, the Alexa console all the time to trigger some
well,
requests.
Yeah, this is more so that you can add breakpoints into your handlers, and if you need to change something, you can just change it, save the file, and then see if that worked. So I create just this shim express server that passes a request into our handler that we imported from our skill handler Lambda.
Okay, yeah.
So I'll go ahead and start that running. Visual Studio Code actually has a TS debugger type, which gives you all of this for free. Let's see. If you add configuration, there's this TS debug in here, which it just gives you everything out of the box, which is
okay, that's nice. Yeah,
pretty awesome. Yeah.
So and what is the idea? So you're running an Express.js. What was it? Express.js server.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
You get the business logic for the Alexa handler, and then you invoke it locally, or you're gonna deploy it to. I mean, you could do both, I guess.
No. Yeah, this is just to run locally, just for debugging.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so I'm importing all our handler logic, and then all this /skill endpoint is doing is taking the body, passing it into the handler, and then outputting the result, which we send back. So since we have to use HTTPS, I usually just start up ngrok, which I don't know if you've used that before, but it just does an HTTPS forward from an ngrok subdomain.
Right, yeah, I used something similar, I believe. Yeah, not sure if it was this one.
So this gives us our HTTPS URL. Which we'll want to switch from AWS Lambda ARN over to HTTPS.
Now I get it. Yeah, I see. Okay.
And then this is very important. You have to say my development endpoint is a subdomain of a domain that has that huge long phrase. You have to tell it that's where it has the certificate, and then save endpoints, and we're going to have to build again.
And now when you trigger like a request from Alexa, it will actually end up on your local machine, basically.
Exactly. Which let's see.
That's interesting.
I wanted to go here. So we'll set a breakpoint right here, and it should stop, and we'll get to see that in action. So so for my skill, my movie quiz skill, I keep the deployment of the model and the Lambda a bit separate, because every time you make a change to this model, for it to go live, you have to submit it for certification. So if I'm just fixing a bug on the Lambda, I don't want to have to submit it for certification until it goes into effect. Okay, let's see.
So the benefit of, well, to have this locally is, yeah, of course, you can actually debug it in VS Code, and you have everything at your fingertips without doing like constant deployments.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
console log debugging.
Yeah, I think, the breakpoints and just having the debugger is the most beneficial part of setting up the server locally, just because it can be difficult to track stuff down. There are some pretty good services that help you out. Like, I love Sentry.io. Like, it'll tell you every time there's an exception in one of your handlers, and kind of it'll tell you like what event came in and give you a stack trace. Is pretty awesome.
So are you using this or like a similar service for your movie quiz skill?
Yeah, I'm using Sentry for my movie quiz skill, for sure. That way I don't have to go looking through the logs, because I'll never know that something broke when someone was interacting with it.
Yeah,
See.
I mean, I've used Sentry quite a bit, but haven't used it in a Lambda context yet. So yeah, but I would assume it works pretty much the same way in the end as like for any other application.
Yeah. So here we hit our breakpoint, so we can see
Awesome.
This is working. We can step through. It already timed out on the console, so.
Oh, good point. Like, what are the timeouts there, like by default, or like can you adjust this somehow?
No, so there's a limit of, it might be 5 seconds, but the recommendation to make it seem responsive is to keep it under 500 milliseconds for your response, which that's not a problem with a Lambda, but when you're hitting a breakpoint and you don't go and hit play, you'll definitely run into that.
Yeah, sure, that makes sense. I mean, sure, like you want to have it responsive, like when people are waiting for it, in like a conversation style interaction with the Alexa device, and yes, it should be pretty fast.
Which there is kind of a trick you can do if you have longer running processes. You can send back a response that plays while you continue processing. So I do that with movie quiz. Like, I'll play like an intro music clip while I'm like loading up quiz questions and stuff. So that makes it like it'll come back with that really fast.
So like hold music on a phone hotline. You like for support or something like this. So like idle music.
It sounds like
a
game show introduction. So it's a very natural, like it feels like, hey, this is part of the game getting me ready, but really I'm just cheating so that I can load up stuff, and I can send back a response within like 30 milliseconds and then have time to load up all of my quiz questions that I'm going to send. So
yeah.
Let's see.
Okay, but like the JSON input here is that's a payload, right? So like we saw this before, but that's a payload which we get or which we receive in our function.
Yes, absolutely. And the skill kit, abstracts a lot of this away for you. But you can see down here, this is what we're checking for in our handler. The request type, it's an intent request, and here's the name of our intent. And it's saying yeah, so I did pass in, I did say, tell me something about Lambda, and you can see here it got the slot category and it figured out that it was Lambda. So we can, I'm not sure what that's there for, but yeah, so now we can kind of do something with that response. I'll just add it to what we're saying on the output. So we can get the category using this alexa.get slot value. And we provide its slot name, and now let's just add it to our response. Now, instead of redeploying, we can just hit restart, and we should see the change. Oh. And there we go.
All right. Pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's like great if you're wanting to develop locally. Like I said, I use a pipeline for deploying my stuff, and so did you want me to kind of go into like how I set up integration tests with that?
Like perhaps like on a high level, yeah. So like what I was just thinking, okay, so now we have like a local development workflow, like where we can like, click around and trigger an event, and then you see it and it can actually interactively debug this, which is pretty cool. So what I was wondering, like, okay, how would this look like, or like, could you imagine like a test-driven style of doing this? I mean, sure, like the business logic could probably be like, I mean, you could mock away like a bunch of services around the Alexa itself, I guess. Like if you would go for the unit testing, but for the integration testing, I imagine it's either triggering events or like, are there other options?
Yeah, so there are, like, to get true integration tests, there's this tool called Bespoken, which will actually like do text to speech and send an audio clip to the actual Alexa service. So that's like probably the best you can get towards integration testing. But the Alexa Skill Kit package has an interface where you can type in kind of what you're typing in on the console here, and it'll give you this text back and kind of the outputs coming back. So I actually hacked together a
so it's essentially skipping the like the speech recognition part, and it's using straight the text which you would have spoken through the, what was it, Bespoken service, which generates a wave, and then Alexa would do like speech recognition, which just cuts this out essentially, and then from there on it's pretty much the same behavior.
Yeah, exactly. So this, it cuts out that first speech recognition part, and so I created this package, this uninspired name jalexa, because it's a jest package for testing Alexa skills. But that's
awesome.
It uses the Alexa skill kit behind the scenes, and it lets you actually, say, hey, I want to speak this to the skill, and you can have multiple steps. And then it has some matchers that you can test to make sure everything turned out right.
Okay, so like the Alexa skill SDK, or what it is, like this Alexa skill class which you're instantiating there. That's actually talking to the Alexa service, or what does it do?
Yeah, so let's see if I can. Since I built this, it's been a while since I've used the actual interactive part, but yeah, so there's this dialogue command. I think I have to pass in the skill ID. So this allows me to now. Oh, it's defaulting to German, which we don't have anything in our interaction model for. Oops. Okay, now we can type exact same thing that we had over here.
Sorry.
And you can see, okay, here's what we sent, and then same thing that we got in the console. Here's your Lambda fact. So the package that I made is just abstracting that process, so you can like
But I mean, this gives you pretty good integration testing capabilities. I mean, that's pretty much all you need, right? I mean, sure, like the voice recognition, speech recognition is in the end not really your problem anyway. That's more or less the problem of Alexa itself.
right, which I'm not sure how well text to speech would even help there, because you're just checking to see if a robot voice says it correctly, essentially.
Yeah. And in the end, you can't do anything about it anyway, right? So like it's,
Well,
if anything goes wrong, like on that end, it's mostly an issue with Alexa itself.
well, there actually are a few things you can do. It'll give you, like, as people interact with your skill, it'll pull off phrases that they told the skill, but it's not 100% sure of, or maybe it's just moderately sure. Yeah, I think it's down here in intent history. Yeah, it'll tell you the confidence level that it had in the response and what they said and what intent it matched to. And if some of those are getting off, you can actually go in here and kind of correct that.
But that's like feedback from users who are actually using it. So if like a robot voice would, I mean, sure, like in the end, perhaps if it would go off the rails, then yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think this is probably way easier and almost as good, I think.
Yeah.
And it's simpler, right? So you don't have another service as something
Which,
in the middle.
yeah, I'm not trying to talk bad on Bespoken. I think it's a great service. I just, I'm not making money on my skills or anything, so it's not really worth it for me to set it up. But they have a lot of other great features too. But yeah, so this test should actually trigger kind of the same thing that we've been doing all along.
So this is something you're actually using for your movie quiz?
Yeah, exactly.
As part of the GitLab pipeline.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a whole bunch of like multi-step things like going through and failing a quiz and see if it does the end of quiz stuff correctly. And you can see here it went out
Cool.
and it said this to the skill and it got a successful response of intent request.
So what is it calling the Lambda function right now, or is it calling still like our local
Oh,
server here?
yeah, it's still calling our local server.
Right. But like in theory, like if you would have it in a GitLab pipeline, would you go for the local server there and like map it somehow there, or would you just deploy everything and then
Yeah, yeah, I
expect
definitely,
it to
I
work?
just, yeah, deploy a dev stage
Yeah.
version of my stack and just send it out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't worry about, setting up local stack or anything like that. I just I mean, serverless stuff is so cheap and easy to deploy.
Yeah. And like, okay, so like I mean, to recap, like it's like just one Lambda function is part of our stack. And once we wired everything together with the Alexa service, or like the Alexa skill in the console or like in the web interface, we could pretty much iterate just in the terminal, just by using CDK, and like with the CDK hot swap feature, we could essentially get down to like a few seconds of code updates. And I mean, it's pretty,
Yeah.
it's not quite there, but it's like, could be close to like a test-driven development style.
Yeah, I haven't used hot swap yet. I just saw some stuff about it recently, so definitely on my to-do list. But yeah, you could definitely get the time down with that, and get your test to pass in less than 17 seconds.
Which is, I mean, considering that everything, or like, well, except at the moment it's local server, but it's actually talking to remote services. It's not too bad, I think.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. I was actually
Yep.
imagining it to be way more difficult to come to this kind of workflow here in like the Alexa skill setting.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
it simplifies things a lot since we're only doing like one handler function. But like my movie quiz skill, I have a dynamo table to keep track of user history so that they don't get like repeat questions every time they start up the skill and some stuff like that.
yeah,
Which that makes it a little more difficult, for sure.
yeah. Yeah, sure, but it's like, is it still like one Lambda function, or like
Yeah,
you
it's
bundle everything together in one function and that's pretty much it?
it's you can only give one Lambda function.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. There are two. So there's some special cases that you can handle with another Lambda function, like when a user deactivates your skill. I'll go and delete their records out of the Dynamo table so that it's not wasting space.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall,
Okay.
one function will do it.
And is there like a way to charge for Lambda function for Alexa skills? Like, is there like a path to revenue somehow?
Yes, there is. There are a bunch of different methods you can have in skill purchases. So
Ah,
for movie quiz, I offer a a reshoot is what it's called, um, which gives you 3 more lives. So if you get to the end of your quiz, you can buy this reshoot and you can get more lives so you can answer more questions and
right.
expand your score. So there's consumables like that. You can have you can sell unlocks, like if you wanted to have like different trivia decks, you could let unlock a new deck. So it would be like a one-time payment, and then they would unlock this thing.
Right.
And just, I don't know if it's completely released yet or if it was just released, but there's a way that you can now have paid skills, so users have to pay to enable it. But I haven't done anything with that yet.
And since everything is tied up to your Amazon account, well, payment details
Yeah,
are there, and it's just
yeah, yeah. They
just one voice command away.
right. Yeah, you have to like fill in some tax information and stuff, but yeah, it's pretty simple just to get it all set up.
Yeah.
And yeah, also the big benefit of creating the skill, you get experience deploying some serverless stuff. If you're new to it, it's, you're start out creating one function. It's an easy introduction, and then also you can apply for the AWS credits. I don't know if I can drop the link for that in here somewhere, but yeah, there's just, if
Yeah.
you
You can send it to me somehow. Oh, we have a chat window
oh,
here.
okay,
And then
but yeah, if you yeah get a skill up, and then you can start getting credits. So like I use them for experimenting with EC2 instances and networking that's not necessarily related to an Alexa skill, but it's great learning experience for building stuff up.
yeah.
Um,
And that's the only requirement is essentially that you publish it, like you have a published Alexa skill.
it has to be a published Alexa skill with a Lambda handler that you're hosting in your AWS account. So
Right. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, which makes sense. That's
so
like a good incentive to get started and well, try it out.
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Are you gonna publish, like, is the code available somewhere that you just saw, or will it be published
Uh,
somewhere?
yeah, I'll drop it into a GitHub repo right
Awesome,
after the stream's over.
cool. Yeah, I'm certainly gonna deploy it into my like personal local Alexa device and get
Yeah.
some awesome cloud facts
Yeah, and
besides
you
from
can
the kitchen timer.
right.
Yeah, right. Cool. So the link will be well. We just published a link, well, probably next to the YouTube video
Yeah.
somewhere. The link for the Alexa, well, bonus program, or how you call it,
Oh,
like
yeah,
the
this
free AWS credits,
yeah.
probably will also be there. And yeah, and well, once I hooked everything up, I will certainly publish like a quick video like of me getting awesome cloud facts out of my Alexa
Awesome.
device.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. Maybe you can rewrite it in German.
Yes, yeah, it will do.
Awesome.
Cool. And anything else which we forgot
Uh,
about Alexa, or anything else you want to mention?
yeah, I mean, it just that's really all there is to it starting out. I mean, it's like anything in development. There's a big rabbit hole you can go down with.
Oh yeah,
They're
sure.
constantly adding new features. Yeah, there's some great resources online. I believe it's Jeff Blakenberg does a lot of stuff on Twitter and YouTube. I think he hosts a
Okay.
weekly show on Twitch. So if you're wanting to get more involved, he would be a great resource to check out.
Bill drops a link as well.
Yeah, I'll send that all over to you once this is done.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Then, yeah, thank you very, very much. So I had a lot of fun and I learned a ton about Alexa. So that was really, really cool.
Thank you, Sebastian. This was fun.
And yeah, so you post the links. Probably I will post the video in the next few days. And yeah, make sure to check out the book, of course. And yeah, and so far we haven't, or like I haven't really scheduled anything for next week. Not sure what's going on there. We'll see. But there's something in 2 weeks with Matthew Bonig, which well, we talk about AWS CDK, 3 do's and don'ts by an example app. And yeah, and with that, thanks for joining in, and well, see you soon.